Hi everyone, I'm just doing a video today for a vegetarian classic dish, vegetarian mac and cheese, but I'm doing it with squash and kale. Now this recipe can be adapted for a vegan option as well. And strange enough, what I've done, I've used the stock from the from the squash, and I'm going to be using it as my base to thicken the sauce. Because for myself, I don't really like milk that much. So I've decided to use the vegetarian stock base from the squash to help thicken it. And like I said, the recipe can be adapted. You can use vegan cheddar as well, but I'm using normal grated cheddar cheese. So right now we have a pot on. Now this is roughly 2 cups of macaroni here. That's roughly 2 cups. I have like a 1/4 cup of, if you can see just here, this is a 1/4 cup of squash here, butternut squash, and we've got here maybe about half a cup or to 1/4 of a cup of the squash right here. So I've already cooked the macaroni, and I'm placing it right here now, and it's already boiled. And what I've added here is just a little bit of oil. I'm gonna add like a half a teaspoon of salt very quickly, some cracked black pepper, and then what are we going to do right now? We're just going to add the squash in here and lightly mix it through, just like this. And then we're going to add some mixed herbs. And this is roughly maybe a 1/4 teaspoon. You can add as much or little as you like, depending on your taste preference. And this is all-purpose seasoning, a 1/4 teaspoon as well. Now, obviously, if you're vegan or vegetarian, you can adapt to suit, because I know with some of the seasonings, it may not have all the ingredients that you actually eat. So basically, you do it to your own personal preference. So this is it just here. And we're just going to slightly raise up the temperature. Now, as the temperature raises up, it will help to promote of the mac and cheese coming up to the boil slightly. As I can see the heat coming through, and that's what we're waiting for. The pan is, as you can see here, I'll just shift it here for you to see. The pan is just heating up slightly here for the kale. And then we'll switch it back to here. So now we can see the heat coming through. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to add the kale now to the pan. And this is roughly maybe about, I would say about maybe a 1/4 cup of the kale. So we're just going to add it now. As you can see, it's piping hot. Just going to lower the temperature down a bit. And add it here to the pan. I'll give you a picture here. So this is the kale frying nicely here. You can see the kale. And then what we're going to do, we are going to basically add a bit of salt and pepper. And it's roughly the same amount as well, like I said, to your preference. Here. And then we are going to add a pot cover to help it to wilt a bit, and it will wilt as it goes down. So we're just waiting for the kale to wilt a bit. We've raised the heat up for the pot here with the squash and the pasta here, macaroni. Now I've got a vegetarian stock cube. You can add this as well for extra flavor. So it's just one stock cube. We're just going to gradually add it. You can see here. Just crumble it through. You can see just here. And then we're going to mix it through. And this will give it an extra kick for it. And we're going to add a little bit of the stock water from the squash. And we're going to let it come up to the boil. You can see here it's going nicely here. So the kale is cooking down. I can hear it, basically simmering down. And the steam from the covered lid will help it to wilt away. And then we'll remove it and then we'll add it to the dish here. So like I mentioned, I'm not really a fan of milk. But I do like cheese. Like I said, if you're vegan, you can substitute it, obviously, for oat milk or whatever dairy-free milk that you like using, and obviously vegan cheese. So now we can see it's basically coming up to the boil roughly, just at a little bit of a simmer. We'll add some more of the sauce too there, because basically what's going to happen is that this will reduce and thicken, and then we will add the cheese last minute. Let's see how the kale is getting on. Now, as you can see, the kale is still not wilted as yet. We're just going to test it. It's coming there slowly. I'm going to add the lid again. And now we can see basically it's really starting to boil at the bottom now. I can see it from my view. And then we're going to add some more stock water again. And just stir it through there. And it's cooking nicely. I can see it bubbling away. So basically, you don't want to basically move around in the pan too much, obviously. And with the squash as well, you can cook it down to your preference. You could either cook it down to al dente with a little bit of bite in it, or you can cook it down when it's really, really cooked really through. It's totally up to you. And this recipe as well doesn't have to be just with squash and kale alone. You can add other stuff in there. But obviously, it's to your preference. What I decided to do is do a squash and kale with it. So we're going to check the kale again. As we switch over here, we're going to check the kale again, and basically the kale should be ready now, and it is. So what we're going to do, we're going to add some of the kale to the pot. add all of it, but just a tiny bit. And you're going to lightly stir it through here. Now obviously, if you want to put this in the oven, you can, but I've decided to do a stovetop mac and cheese. And now we're going to add the cheese to it.